good evening, everybody. Good evening, good evening. This is Eddie. Hey, we're here for the Erudition Network Thursday live interactive Black History and Knowledge session. Um, we do this session. If you're new to this, we do this session. Sorry, I had a light that I needed to look a little dark. We do this session every Thursday where we take the time to talk about Black history. And provide knowledge on things that may not have been clearly covered in school or may have been avoided and not covered at all. Um, this session happens every Thursday at 5 o'clock here in where I am in Denver, 6 o'clock in Chicago, where a lot of my family and friends and loved ones are. That's Mountain and Central. Um, and we just do this show because we want to make sure that we are providing you with some history and some understanding that maybe I know for a fact I'm being a little bit humble, but that you're not getting in other places. But this is validated, sourced, venerated history, things that we have studied, or have looked at, and gone over, and made sure that it's not folklore, legend, myth, fantasy. Um, we stream here on Facebook, YouTube. We are now streaming on Twitch and on Twitter. So we are running a lot of different places and trying to open up the aperture, so to speak, so more people can see and hear what's going on. All right. Well, I gave a little bit of time because I wanted to see if we could get anybody to come here live. Typically, what tends to happen is that people come in a little bit later on these sessions. Last week, we had one of my friends from the Navy came on, but he came on like in the last 5 or 10 minutes of the actual session, which was kind of funny, but we still were able to get his question in and answer his questions, hopefully succinctly, in the way that he wanted, to give him his information. As you come in, hey, drop us a line. Let us know that you're here, that you're on with us tonight. I am a little bit down today. I wasn't feeling very well, so I asked my sons. It'd been a while since I had my sons or my family, even any of them other than my wife. I think we've done a couple of shows over this last year where I've gone on her show or she's been on, but we haven't had them on for a while. So what I wanted to do was to bring them in, talk to them, and it's always good to check in with your sons and to find out what's going on in their lives, and especially in today's day and age, and get their opinions and thoughts on what's happening, right, as it pertains to our history, as it pertains to our culture. So I'm not going to belabor it because, as I told them, I didn't want to do a lot of talking tonight. I'm just going to bring both of them on. I'll bring my firstborn on first, Teddy, and then I will bring in Sean Anthony. All righty, there you go.
Hello, everybody.
Well, yeah, it's kind of weird looking at you all when I see y'all on camera comparatively, because this is not the view that you typically get, right? Every day. You don't see yourself next to your kids, and it's kind of freakish in a way. Just wanted to throw that out there.
What do you mean? It's just three of us. Older me, younger me, and just weirder me. Looking at you, Teddy.
Yeah, I guess you could look at it that way, because it does look strange. But I wanted y'all on here tonight because I wanted to have a discussion. There's so much that's been going on right now, where we've seen, a couple of weeks ago, we were all here and we watched Tyre Nichols, and we watched the situation of that young black brother, not too far removed from you all's age, being basically beat to death. And it in my mind, I'm just going to give you my perspective, and then I'm going to get both of you all's perspectives. In my mind, on a historical note, it reminded me of slave catching. It reminded me of how when black slaves would run and get off the plantation, they had slave catchers and who would go out and try to find them, and they would hurt them or they would do things to them to make sure that they didn't run again. And a lot of times the slaves didn't get too far away from where they were enslaved. And so when I looked at Tyre Nichols' situation, I saw that here he is 3 doors down from his mother's home, and he's screaming for his mother. He's screaming for his family. And these men are beating him because he dared to run from them. And it was pretty traumatic, I'm sure, not just for me, as we saw it with the entire nation, but I wanted you all's thoughts on that, succinct thoughts on that, on what you thought and how it made you feel. Sean Anthony, I'll go to you first.
In all honesty, that was rather sickening. The fact that for no reason whatsoever, for a simple charge, a bunch of cops decided to hop out of a vehicle and then not only beat a person down on the street, but then because of him running, and they had to just jog for a second before they decided, you know what, we're going to hop in, we're going to call reinforcements, and then deciding, well, you made us have to do some sort of freaking workout. And as a result, we're going to now beat you to within an inch of your life. And then for the last couple of seconds of his life, they had him sit on the ground as all these medical people just showed up and did nothing to help him. They sat there and just watched it happen just because. It was honestly sickening. It was disturbing on so many levels, because the entire time they were beating him, you could hear him crying for his mother and trying to get somebody to notice so that somebody would record. Because if somebody was to record, those cops would have came up with excuses, and they most likely wouldn't have beat him as bad, because they know that nothing they were doing was justifiable. As many experts have come onto the news as well as other stations saying, no, this is not the conduct that the police should use, let alone are taught to use.
Well, Sean Anthony, I guess I get all of that, but I guess my question is, you as a young black man, how does that make, for your safety in this country, how does that make you feel? And how does it make you feel that black men, those cops were black, majority of them, could do that to another black man? What are your thoughts on that?
Honestly, it's incredibly frightening, because if black people will do that to their own kind, they know the struggles that they had to go through, because in most movies, even in most movies, black cops would talk about how it's hard for them to move up the rank. Even cops in the real world who are black, they tell you how hard it is to move up the ranks without being corrupt or without having even half the privileges as normal cops. And all the while, a group of black cops decided to assault this one black man, and then they thought, and what I think they thought was that they could possibly get away with it because so many other cops have gotten away with the same type of atrocity. But in reality, they didn't get away at all. And even though some of them can be paid on for bail, most of them are going to most likely face the most harsh sentence, all because of the fact that they decided that they wanted to be incredibly privileged and they wanted to think, well, I'm going to be every other cop, and now they're going to have to face harder judgment than any other cop we've seen. At least that's my thoughts.
Teddy, what's your thoughts on it? Both things. You know, how your how you saw it, and how does it affect your thoughts as a young Black man?
I saw it as American ideals on display of privilege. It doesn't matter what color you are. I've heard people say, well, they got a harsher sentence because it's Black people that are quicker to get them out of the force than they are if they're white and do these deeds. And to their credit, that does happen often. If a Black person is just sitting there on the force and observing something wrong happening, they usually pin it on him and are quick to fire him, and somebody else is on paid leave or is still a part of the force and resigns later. This did not happen for them, nor should it have, because what they did was just atrocious. But how it makes you feel is just angry, because you see that we're not getting any better. We're not getting any better as a society right now. I wish we could say that we were, but we have right now that Nichols situation came right after the Uvalde shooting. We have a major problem with guns and privilege of authority. Because regardless of what anybody can say, it takes somebody to feel real entitled and privileged to say, let me go and take some lives today. And unfortunately, you're seeing that same situation in cops. People that say they want to enlist in the military or as a police officer, they're usually so obsessed with those guns. I get to have a gun. I get to have a weapon. I hear it all the time, even with a friend of mine who wants to go into the police academy. He later decided to go with the Navy because the whole gun situation just prevented him from achieving that goal. So you scare a lot of people from you scare a lot of people out of their dream jobs because other people don't know how to act. So as to how it makes me feel, just angry that this is happening and it has continued to happen for so long.
Yeah, you were garbling a little bit, so we had to get you another mic. But you guys are good. You should be better now.
All right.
Yeah, you sound better.
Yeah, you sound a lot better now.
All right.
You sound like you were in a wind tunnel. I mean, we understand what you were saying, but it sounded like you were in a wind tunnel being attacked by gremlins. Well, you know, here's the thing. I hear exactly what you both are saying, and my fear for you all, and I'm sure your mom shares the same concerns, is that we are living in a society now where it seems like people are more very comfortable pushing these old set and developed stereotypes. They're very happy to hurt and harm others and go along with the propaganda. Now, unfortunately, historically, this is not new, right? We've always had the individuals. People were like, they were so surprised that it was black men that did this to another black man. I find that part to be heartbreaking, but I don't think any black person was surprised. What we have found is that we are living in a society, we've gone backwards, where we now have those same do you boys know what a driver is historically for black folks? What that term means? Driver?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Give me your definition of a driver.
Who wants to go first?
Don't matter. Go ahead. It's a conversation.
Yeah, so you go ahead.
A driver for me is a person that is willing to get ahead while other people suffer by pushing whatever the top man wants upon other people. Because that's what the term driver, slave drivers, they will have the black person in the house, or even sometimes in the field who they are associated with, and they go and sell them out like, oh no, he didn't do this. You got to go punish him for a reward. They give him a reward or her a reward for driving and pushing their agenda. That's what a driver is to me. You see them a lot in our society, especially in protests. Because every protest is not a protest. I believe we touched on that the last time that we were here. How most protests that we see today is not a real protest. So that's what it would be for me. A driver would be.
All right, shout out to you. What do you think a driver is? I think Teddy's
I
correct.
believe a driver is a person who, as Tay just said, he pushes the top man's agenda, rather that person's intentions. Rather, the top wants somebody to push anarchy, riots. It's pretty much somebody who comes down to manipulate by using but they use somebody who's in the group they're trying to push into this agenda. In other words, if they're trying to make a certain group like Hispanics or black or just minorities in general try to cause a riot, they'll put a driver in there who will hype up the anger and the fear in the crowd as a means to go ahead and make everybody to make it seem like they're pushing their to make it seem like their own anger is taking over, as it's their own choice, so that the driver is never revealed. Which is, like Teddy said, which is what you see in most of these so-called riots lately. Because what happens is they put a person in the crowd, and their only job is to raise hatred and fear in that riot. And rather they go ahead and try to they try to dole out the people who are saying no, let's just keep this as a protest, because the driver is there to push any agenda other than their own, and they're there just to make sure that you don't realize that they're pushing you to another agenda. So as a result, yeah, I would say a driver is a person who sits there and tries to push you into a violent or manipulative path in a way that makes the person think this is my own idea. This person had nothing to do with it. Because it's easier for a person to be like, well, obviously I'm not being manipulated. It's obviously my idea. This person just gave me a little advice to get me further down the main idea.
So you are right. I will tell you this though. Both of you all's definitions are correct, right? A driver by definition is just that. They're driving you to do. They're obsequious. They're driving you for a reason to appeal to someone else, right? To make someone else happy, right? Rather it be the person that has enslaved you, the person that is dominating over you, or whatever. That's what they do. I remember reading through one of the American slave narratives from Alabama, and people that went out to go interview folks who had been slaves, and they were old. Some of them were in their 80s and 90s by the time they did these interviews. And one particular man, he called himself Uncle Charlie. He stands out to me because he made the comment to the interviewer. He said some of the and I won't use the word, some of the N words were honorary. They were worse off than the white man because they wanted to drive us and they didn't care about how we felt or who we were, because the master rewarded the driver. He got the better food. He got the better shack. He was treated differently. And people get into these group mentalities and they do that. And it doesn't matter. You don't have to be white to push racist supremacy. I'll say that again. You don't have to be white to even push white supremacy. And the history of this country has shown that, has validated that. There are people who sell out their own and kill out their own culture. And it blows your mind because their kids, wives, and family, you would think, look just like you. But they don't care because they see it as a way for them to live better. And they continue down the path. Go ahead.
Yeah, but honestly, it's even more than that, because think about it. The thing that most people don't get about pushing even more supremacist mentality is that coming from a minority, that hits home even more. Because think about it. If a black person says that white supremacy is amazing, then multiple people will be like, oh, that's fine now? In other words, while you're pushing their agenda thinking, I'm just one black person saying that white supremacy is good. The fact is, as soon as that means they're going to try to move you up the tower so that they're like, see, look, we got this famous black person who pushes white supremacy. And now you want to silence him, but he's all the way up here now. Now you're going to cover his voice just because you don't agree with him. And it's like, now you've created a big problem, because now when you try to push it, when you try to rise up another black man, they're going to be like, but you pushed this one down. What about him? Shouldn't he go back up to the top along with him? They try to piggyback ideas off of each other, and they know that it's incredibly strong if they push a minority upward onto higher ground that pushes their ideas. Because as long as he's up there, they could go ahead and say whatever they want, and then they could just quote and be like, well, while you're saying that this is so racist, this person who's famous and up here said that it's not. Because he said that white supremacy is A-okay. He said that just because just because a black woman was single and was raised differently from all of us doesn't mean that any doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean that that person should go around and go kill. It means that they were just raised in a different environment. When in reality, it's
Well, no,
absurd.
So let's go into that. Let's go into that, boys. So who give you ain't got to give me a name, right? But what do you think some of the biggest drivers in our society that construct this myth, this supremacy myth, and even the negative ideas of on black men? Where are these people located?
On the biggest informational site known to man, the news.
And yeah, they're in the media. But for me, I would say it's in your music. Music is a great pastime. In fact, it's been described as a way that we decorate time. Just like you decorate a wall with paintings, and they say that you decorate time with music. And you're sitting there listening, having these ideals of, oh, yeah, what he's saying right now, he really spitting. Let's go and do that. You perpetuate these ideas that this is okay. And thus you push a mentality that whoever's at the top of the industry wants you to believe. And you don't think nothing of it because the excuse is it's just a song. You have agency to do what you will with it, and you do. But also you should also take responsibility when you know that things are going wrong. But that's a whole nother issue because we could look at the situation with Jordans and realize a lot of black men have been killed over a pair of shoes. It's there are a lot of drivers in society and they have been around, some not as active, but we know that they were there and that they are still here. We won't bring up any personal names, but there's even some that have been in the media as of recently that's like, come on, man, you shouldn't be saying or doing things like that.
Yeah, but hold on a second.
People a bad name.
Let's go. I want to touch back on the what you just said about people killing for shoes, because what people are forgetting is not too long ago we weren't just killing people for shoes. We were killing people for whole chicken sandwiches in freaking parking lots and stuff, which was absolutely ridiculous. One internet video showed somebody outrageously talking about how good chicken sandwiches are, and then from that moment on, people were like, oh, I can't get it. I'm going to fight you in the parking lot. I'm going to fight you in the street. And it went viral. And so all around the world, all around America, there was somebody fighting for a chicken sandwich. And all the while, nobody's thinking, man, this is incredibly stupid. And this just shows our ignorance. But instead, they were like, this is hilarious. I can't believe this. I don't want to buy a chicken sandwich because, but all the while, you don't know what the driver could have been in the video. That video, it's dropped sales down because when you saw that video, you thought, I'm not about to buy a chicken sandwich. I could get beat up for this. So, that driver, so that's another visual of a driver. They could go ahead and be like, oh, this chicken sandwich is so good, I beat up somebody for it. And all the while, you're sitting there like, that's hilarious, but I'm not going to buy this.
You still have the same thing with blood diamonds. Yes, people are still killing people over jewelry. And where did we get these mentalities from? Oh, I'm flossing. This ice on my neck is. We have a very bad, messed up perception of what value is in society. What should we value instead of, oh yeah, I look nice today, and instead of giving compliments, is man, I should do that. I need to do that at any cost, and then you end up stealing or harming somebody for it because you put too much value in this material. And who said that it had any worth? Michael Jordan for shoes. He's been out of the game a long time, and they still heavily over these shoes. You don't hear any cases about people dying over them, but you do hear scuffing over them, especially if they crease it, which is that in itself is crazy. It's a shoe. If you wear it enough times, it's gonna crease. I'm sorry,
Yeah,
that's what it's
the
gonna do.
shoes have wear on it. It's kind of stupid because eventually that shoe is either going to be worn completely out or it's just going to be,
But do you
completely
think
gone.
I'm letting you all just to have this discussion because I think that it needs to be understood and not just my perspective. But let me ask you this. Do you think that, and I don't want to just focus on the shoes, but that's a good point to bring up with the whole Jordan and the scuffing and people messing with your shoes and things going on and people getting mad and all this other stuff. But here's the thing. Do you think that people will value these things as much as they do if they knew their history? And I'm gonna give you an example. So certain things we don't think about. Slaves were not given uh, clothes, but once a year a lot of times. They had no control over what they wore. Um, the master decided that. The master and the missus decided that. People don't like to hear that word master, but that's the way they called themselves, and that's the way the system was. And they were the masters over their bodies, their lives, and whatever. It's an unfortunate truth. And so, do you not find it a little bit loony? That's the only way I could say it. That we have a world right now where people will kill you, beat you down for a pair of gym shoes. When your ancestors, right, were trying to find out what foot, what shoe, what sandal fit this person so that they didn't have to walk around barefoot because Massa wasn't going to buy them any more shoes. And their feet were calloused. And you can read the slave narratives if you take the time and hear about it. How do you think that those ancestors would look to see people getting mad because somebody scuffed your shoe? Now, mind you, I put my money, I bought this, right? But is it worth your life? I'm going to blow your brains out for a pair of shoes. Do you think that history, knowing that history, could affect your current mentality on how you value things?
I got a lot of words about this, but Tay, I'll let you go first because I'm gonna
Go
go
ahead.
ahead. I'll go ahead and be generous for right now.
Of course, I think that if they knew their history, they would probably they would be more appreciative. But the thing is that they
Your,
also, it's not
your
just
auntie was
about
on.
knowing
Not
it.
to cut you off, but your auntie was on. Hello.
Hey,
Hey, Auntie. Hey, TT Jazz. I don't know why her name is Jennifer Ann on here.
You know your auntie.
But yeah, if they knew their history, then they would have a better sense of where they came from, but they would need to put value into their history. Because because even from that perspective, and I can tell you, they taught us a whole lot about war coming into the 8th grade and going into high school. We knew all about the Great War, how it then World War II, Civil War, the Spanish War. We knew all about these wars, and you would think, well, other people, you may know about it enough to play trivia or refute somebody in an argument, but you don't put any value into it to actually apply it. And what do I mean by that? If anything that those wars would have taught you is to value life. A lot of people died. There's a whole memorial in Washington, D.C. about people that died during the World War II. And I believe there's a monument of World War One as well. If they put value into their history, they would know people died fighting for the country that you are so willfully executing people in. But we don't put value into history. So then it's the question of, well, if they would know that the slaves didn't have any shoes, they couldn't really get any clothes. If they would have known that they couldn't even enlist in the military, they couldn't, even when they were in the military uniform, they were be grateful to have. That would only come to the person that values their history. Knowing it is one thing, but if you don't value it, then you can't gain anything from it. And unfortunately, that's where we are. We would rather attack people with our knowledge than actually live it and apply it. And I don't know how we're going to get around that, because of all the things that they would taught you, you would have thought that you had learned in school just from learning the basic remedial wars and curriculum that they set for you. Value life. But we don't even do that, so I don't know how we can get them to acknowledge anything else if you can't value anything simple as human life.
Shadi, I'm going to let you go ahead and comment on that, and then I'm going to bring up another subject. Go ahead.
Now, look, that was incredible, but at the same time, sugarcoated it a little bit. For me, however, I ain't about to sugarcoat that. To be quite honest, if people knew what their ancestors had to go through, honestly, I believe they would feel absolutely ashamed, and I'm sure their ancestors would be pretty ashamed as well, because you were their hope. You were you were their prayers every single night before they went to sleep. And you mean to tell me 100 years, not really 100 years, only a century has passed, and you mean to tell me that you going and shooting your brothers for some shoes that, sure, you worked hard for, but all they are is shoes. All you did was work, not a day, you didn't work till your feet were bloody and sore, till your hands had skin falling off the bone. You didn't work for little to no pay, but you worked, and now you mean to tell me you believe those shoes are worth 2, maybe 3 human lives just because they damaged your shoes? And now you mean to tell me that you're supposed to look at your ancestors and believe they're going to look down and smile upon your deeds? You should feel absolutely ashamed for it. You should, because for no other because who you're killing is also other people's prayers. All slave mothers as well as slave fathers sat there and prayed for a better future, and you ended somebody's life for something as meaningless as some white and red shoes. And technically, it don't even matter on the color.
Or car. It's not just the shoes. or something or
a piece of
tablet,
metal,
other
leather,
material good.
or whatever
Phone.
material it was made out of. You killed
Phone.
somebody for it.
So
And
go ahead, Sean.
I can't understand it for one reason. The only thing, sure, we go ahead and say that diamonds are worth a lot. We say that
Your grandma's
leather
right.
is incredibly hard to get,
Hey, Grandma.
and we have to kill animals for it. But think about it like this: as long as the earth exists, you will have diamonds, you will have leather, you will have rock, you will have
Until it don't
stone,
exist.
you will have all this stuff. And you mean to tell me that you go in and being like, this is worth so much more than your life? That is an absolute atrocity. And whoever decided whoever decided for even a moment that somebody's life was as worthless as a piece of cloth on their feet deserves whatever punishment the law or anyone else seems to give you.
But okay, so having said all of that, and I completely agree. That was very articulate to the point, Sean Anthony. That's just the truth. And I don't think either one of y'all, you have not been taught to sugarcoat, but you just you have to speak the truth, right? Because this is your generation, is your peers, right? But on another subject that's very, very close to this, you see me over the last couple of weeks talking about how they're trying to stop the teaching of history. Teddy just talked about it. You just talked about it, right? You don't even know who your ancestors are. I'm gonna share a picture with you all. I'm gonna share a picture with you, and I'm gonna share it because I want you to see what how people think. Right? First picture I'm going to share is this. You see this man right here?
Yep.
If you had to guess this is this a white man, black man, Asian?
Yeah, that looks like a white man.
Yeah, I'd say a white man.
It's a white man, right?
Yep.
This is Walter White. And you may not know who Walter White is. Walter White was the mentor of Thurgood Marshall. Walter White served for the NAACP. Walter White was biracial. He was black. Walter White did a lot for black people in this country. Without Walter White, there would be no Brown versus Board of Education decision. Without him preparing black lawyers. The thing about Walter White is Walter White used his passing as a tool. Walter White would go to lynchings, a book called The Rope and Faggot, not making fun of gay people, faggot meaning the burning. And he talked about being there firsthand and seeing people in Arkansas, Mississippi, Alabama, murdering and killing. Walter White could have passed through this life as a white man, but the reason that he did not was because of a lesson that he learned early in life from his father. In 1906, there was a great race riot in Atlanta. And Walter White's father told him, as they were guarding the door, thinking that they were going to be attacked, his father told him, son, don't shoot until the first man puts his foot on our property. And then when you shoot, you better not miss. This instilled in him the understanding that despite what he looked like, he was black. And understanding from his family what his heritage was. Didn't matter how Walter White looked to himself or to you or anybody else. That history was important. That history informed him. And it made him do something that has changed the lives for me, you, and black people all over this country who are allowed to ride on buses, go into buildings, go to school, because he paid that forward. He didn't care that people saw him. W.B. Du Bois said that he had more white friends than he had black friends. He did that on purpose, to know what they were doing, what they were contriving to do.
Got to get in the enemy's ranks.
He understood that. But more importantly, the lesson from Walter White is the understanding of your history, who you are, what you are. I got one more picture for you before I get a comment from y'all. Here's another picture. This is one of those pictures that seems to be sent out every year. Do y'all know who this is?
No.
No, I can't say.
Apparently, his name is Theo Money Ain't a Thing James, the first black man to ever make it rain. Apparently, that's who that is, right? That's what this says, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I guess his name is Theo James. There's somebody. Where was this taken?
You know who that is? That's Marcus Garvey.
Mm.
But people in y'all generation, people in my generation, every year during Black History Month, it's a big thing to go out here, right, and put out these ignorant, stupid memes and pictures. We can't learn our history, right? We can't learn our history from in Florida, Mississippi, and they want to deny the ability to teach you African American studies. But we will put out pictures like this. We'll tell you lies, so that you don't even know who Marcus Garvey is. If you've never seen him, you think his name is Theo James, right? He in the club making it rain. That's what he does. Not that he's the Jamaican activist, right? He was the president and founder of the Universal Negro Improvement Association.
Yep,
Not that he was a man that wanted to bring together the African diaspora and get black folks all over the world to unite and to make one nation. Not that he was pushed out of America. Not that people died at the hands of the Ku Klux Klan because they were so afraid of Garveyists in this country that were going to take away their workers. No, that's Theo James. Money ain't a thing.
But then, to be fair, we did say something like this. I remember when it was trending back. It sounds so long ago now. Back in 2018, where people were posting that meme, I'm gonna tell such and such that this was such and such.
Yeah.
Somebody like one of those memes where, oh, I'm gonna tell my kids that Mr. Potato Head, this was Steve Harvey. It starts as a joke, but then you start making it a reality, and then not only does it not become funny anymore, but then it just becomes, wait a minute, this is a problem because people are actually doing this.
Yeah, that was the sad thing that happened in 2019. Everybody thought saying that the Earth was flat was a joke, and everybody was like, "Man, this is hilarious." And then in the midst of all of that, people actually came out and said, "Nope, the Earth is flat," and it stopped being a joke and started turning into, because it stopped being a joke and started turning into something that actually happened. And it was absolutely astonishing because the spread of misinformation, while some misinformation can be funny, others can be really terrifying as well as sad. Because what can happen is, in the middle of trying to be like, well, we're going to say this is this, somebody else will be like, absolutely, that is truth. And that's the most scary part because nobody goes and fact checks anymore. Everybody goes like, oh, all this knowledge is at my fingertips. Why would any of this be? I was talking about this the other day. There are thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of sites on the internet. You could search up the Constitution. You could search up the Bible and search up a reference in the Bible. And there'll be 10,000 different sites that pop up. And nobody ever questions, why is there 10,000 sites all saying the same thing? It's because none of those sites are saying the same thing. Every last one of them is either saying something biased, something informational, or something that's completely off the top of somebody's head that they're trying to spread misinformation. The fact is, nobody ever wants to go and fact check and be like, is this true? Is it not? Because they go like, I'm going to take this as absolute truth. This is the God honest truth. And then when somebody else comes along and says, that doesn't make any sense, here's the actual truth, they go like, no, did you fact check? And they bring up a website that supports their idea. And that's the most terrifying thing. How come the fact that somebody is able to bring up a site that agrees with them, meanwhile there's tens of thousands of other sites that completely contradict it? All because they were like, I'm going to win this argument with this one piece of paper, and I won't do any other or further search for any other knowledge.
Well,
Well,
unfortunately,
that's why
that's
we
the
talk
type
about
of
venerated
society.
history, right? Ain't that what we
That,
say? When you hear me talk, what do I tell you guys? I say it has to be venerated. It has to be validated. It has to be sourced. It has to be something from a primary or secondary source. I don't care what Bobby, John, and Mike, and Phil, and anybody else said. If I know that the person who lived through it, right, who actually lived and died in it, is telling me or has left evidence. The thing about it, most of our constructive reading and knowledge, we're talking tonight about what goes on and what isn't shared and how it affects our consciousness. The thing about it is, we have had many of our ancestors, academics, thinkers, leaders, who have left us with huge amounts of information and things to learn from, giving us firsthand account. Right, I just told you about Walter White. Firsthand accountability of what they lived through, what they had to make through. And because they left that, like I think one of you all said it earlier, they left it so that you could have it. Now it's gotten to such a point where we don't even teach it in our look tonight. We're on here right now talking about these issues and relating them to history. Where are people in the country, kids who are a little younger than you all, who are walking out of schools because they can't get taught history of their own people. AP classes have been denied in some parts of the country on Black History Study. And we are going down this road where they're not going to teach it in school, so our kids won't learn it at all. You all have the benefit of having a mother and father that make sure that you learn. Your brother tonight had to write a paper on Martin King, he had to write a summary on his life. You all have the benefit of being taught. You have the benefit of having relatives who were directly involved in the civil rights struggle. Your perspective is different and it is needed. I can say that from listening to both of you tonight in the short time that we've been on. It is needed because the drivers that we talked about, right, who are driving society, do you see a person like Walter White leading anything out here right now?
Nope.
Do you see a good marshal out here? Yeah, you see Ben Krupp and different others that are actually pushing for overall legislation to stop what is going on. The governors and the people in these states having the full power of the law to deny folks education of their own people.
And comfortable.
And you've talked about tonight what is the resultant in that. What do we sow at the end of that? People who will kill each other for a phone, some shoes, a car. People who have no value over each other's lives. People go to school every day, and as you all said, are taught consistently about the Queen of England, the kings of England, founding this country.
The wars.
But let me ask you a question. I gave you that little bit of history about Walter White. Had you ever heard that before?
Absolutely not.
Nope.
When you saw Walter White's picture, did you know who he was?
Nope.
No.
Both of you, that's why I didn't tell you. He looked just like what? Just some white man.
A white person.
Yep.
Right? But when you saw the picture of Theo Money Ain't a Thing James,
Didn't know him.
right? We don't know who Marcus Garvey is. We
I know
don't
his
these
name.
people. You know,
But
the
I've
name.
never seen his face. And they hardly show you people's faces. I remember the grade I was in the very first time I saw Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. That was in the 5th grade. The very first time I remember seeing his face and going, oh, that's what it is.
Who is this?
Oh, man. I don't know. But after
It's
this, I
not
never...
to put you boys on the spot. I'm asking this because I'm sure there are people out there who don't know it either. There are people who are going to watch this broadcast and don't know it.
Man,
That's
I have
Carter
no
G.
idea.
Woodson. That's G. Woodson. You know the reason why you have a Black History Month is because of this man right here.
Yep. And again, you know the name, but you don't know the face.
Yeah, you know the name, but you don't know the face behind the.
But if I were to show you a picture of George Washington, John Adams, right? Napoleon, if I were to show you these people's pictures, you would know who they are. You could probably even tell me some rudimentary fact, myth, folklore about them.
That's because they hammer that stuff into you. They make
Say it
sure
again.
you know
Say
it.
it again. They hammer it into you. If you knew that you are related by blood to a senator, to a president, that shapes your perspective. I'm not going to go out here and blow nobody's brain out for no gym shoes when I know where I come from. As Sean Anthony so eloquently said earlier, I'm not going to embarrass my family, my ancestors. I'm not going to embarrass anybody because I know who I am. I don't got to beg you for a thing. It gives you that what did Colin Powell said it gives you that strength in your spine to stand up straight. That pride in yourself, not a negative pride. I got worth. I am extremely proud of my children. And I tell you this very often because it's a lot that is pushed into you all. And there's a lot of expectations that we have. But we have those expectations because we don't want you to fall for the okie doke, for the lie. We don't want you to bow to the driver. You all both so clearly told me what a driver was. And even though Sean Anthony even went a little further and explained to you the driver as an agent provocateur. The one that goes to get everybody else to follow because he's not there for you. You know, those kids that watch the Harry Potter movies, right? And you see how the Snape character was able to go along with the Voldemort character. Just for the nerds out there, he was able to get in with those people, right? Because they believed that he was just like them.
Mhm.
And in many ways, he's the hero of the entire story. Because he never forgot who he was, what he wanted to be. That love in him, wherever it was for. It is amazing to me that we fall to propaganda, but it happens. All right, getting ready to check on out here. We've been on for an hour, but I'm going to let you both give some final thoughts on this conversation.
All right, so you go ahead. I'll be this last time. This is my last bit of generosity.
Well, let's recap on what we went over today. We started with the situation with the police beating that young man to death, and I'll give you a little something to do, which is what I'm doing as well. Go and look up the Stanford prison experiment. That will let you know just how authority is abused by any race. It doesn't matter who you are, as long as you hold authority, as long as you feel you are over somebody, you're going to act out. It's just a matter of when and to what degree. Even as the eldest of my brothers, you know that there's some things. If you're the eldest, you probably know these things too, or you're denying, but that's all right. That you have a level of authority to an extent, and the authority that's given, you tend to step outside the bounds and abuse it at times. But some people go very, very left with it. And that Stanford prison experiment will break that down in detail to you as to just how that authority is misused, where you feel that you have that privilege and where it comes from, and a way that it can be corrected. Because there, unfortunately, a lot is not as harmless as, oh, I'm the eldest. Let me put my hand over your head and hold this just out of your reach. But the problem is, in reality, a lot of people are dying because somebody feels privileged that they have the authority to do whatever they're going to do without any consequence. And you're seeing that a lot. The other thing that we touched on is unknown faces. We don't know a lot of people within Black History, and I hope you take these last remaining days of Black History Month to really break down on what is factual and what is just absurd. As you just saw with Theo, Theo James, who is really Marcus Garvey.
Theo James.
You may have heard the name, but you don't know the face. Take some time and figure out, do these people have a face? Look it up in the Library of Congress if you want. That's where I have been going to fish out people this Black History Month. Because we really don't know who these people are. And you could benefit from knowing them and figuring out, even if you're just a bit curious of, do you spawn from them? Do you know anybody who worked with them? Have some worth about yourself. And lastly, the very last thing that we want to go over is just learn. Even if it's not with this channel, if this is the last time you're with us, continue learning. We're life learners. If you do not pay attention learning, you're going to fail. And there's too much failure, and we do not have controlled failures right now. We have failure that will cost you your life or the life of others. You benefit from learning. Thank you for being with us. I take that to Papa. You close us out.
Now I gotta say, Tay, that was a wonderful way to end this session with you. But
It's the
to be quiet,
disability
and
things.
yeah, though you mentioned some great points and stuff, and I can't really touch on that. What I'm going to focus on in the last couple of minutes of this is pretty much what you stated at the end. In all honesty, during this Black History Month, rather you have studied past historical figures that you know almost to the T, or study some new historical figures that you never even knew before. Do go out and look to see what their faces look like, so that you're not, uh, looking at a face like Theo James over there, and thinking, oh, that's just some dude, the first person who made it rain. You don't be a person who spreads misinformation even further. Instead, be the person who's able to detect it and throw it out and finally get rid of it once and for all. Because as long as that misinformation lasts, there's more people who will fall victim to it. And then there will be somebody who picks up on that misinformation and realizes they can use it for their own evil. But there's also, but that's only the first thing I want to say. My second thing is I want people should focus more on honor, because honor is something that makes you hold your head up high in a way. Think about it like this: if your past ancestors, you look up your past ancestors and you see that they were warriors, that they knew the lands backward and forward, and they lived in prosperity and protected their own tribes, why is that not a reason to hold your head high? So what I'm trying to say here is, remember that even in any time, you need to have honor for your family. Don't disgrace your ancestors by deciding to be some street thug that decides you're not worth $2 shoes, the bling on my chest, or the money in my pocket. Because in the end, all of that will eventually go away. Because what people forget is your life is a life. In other words, it's no shorter and no longer. As soon as you are gone, what legacy will you leave behind? How many burned bridges will you leave for your descendants to have to fix and put out the flames? Nobody ever thinks about that in their mortal life. They just go through their life and believe that they're the hero of their own story, and whoever's story they are the villain in, it doesn't really matter because it'll never come back to bite them. But in the end, it always comes back to bite. As you can see with most of history, nobody has ever gotten over slavery completely, because all the evils that were done during slavery bit so many people in the behind that there's still people who are bitter and people who are afraid that one foot will drop at all times, so no one can ever really move on. And as a result, you're always stuck in the same place. And then the same thing is said. If I'm the villain in someone else's story, well, so be it. I'll just go ahead and continue my life and do so on and so forth. But who are you really affecting here? Because you're not affecting yourself if you're going around with that mentality. In fact, if anything, you're just sitting there and having deniability. You're thinking that by denying that you had any wrongdoing in this, that you're justified. And And even if some people don't believe in God, you gotta believe in some greater purpose that's going to pay you back at some point. You need to know. Everybody knows that something is going to come back to get them for what they've done. That, after all, why else would you judge criminals? Why else would there have been a death sentence and all sorts of other things? Everybody wants to say that there's no such thing as karma, and the good are bound to be crushed by the evil and strong. But all throughout history, we have come up with various laws and methods and street law and street methods that will always come back to get the person who did such wrongs to a community. And we always make sure that it gets them back. But yet you continue to believe that you can beat evil because evil always prospers in this world. There is no such thing as evil prospering. Evil looks good. That's pretty much all you need to know. But underneath, evil is always paranoid that good is going to come find them at some point. And when that good finally comes and finds them, do you want to be on evil's side and know that whatever end you meet is justified because of your freaking intentions? Do you really want to be sitting there and then be on the same edge, to be on the same viewing edge that somebody else who you committed an evil act to saw? And no matter how much you plead and ask, all that happens is the same thing that happened with you. They go, why should I care when all I need is this jewelry, my wealth, my house, my family, and all the misinformation we spread, that you spread, we can go ahead and use that to cover you up too. In the end, evil is a double-edged sword. And no matter how much you try to use that sword, it's going to cut you. Because instead of you holding the hilt, you're holding the blade like a fool.
Well, that was
A villain speech. I enjoyed it.
Well, that's it for me.
Mind you look no, that was great. It's my son. I'm very, very happy. I appreciate you all coming on here today. Like I said, I wasn't feeling too well, and I've been meaning to get you all on, have this discussion about your perspective on these things. We're gonna get out of it, but I wanted to share this last week, so I have it up. Then we're gonna get out of here. I was shared the other day, and I was laughing because we had gone, when your auntie them came to visit, to go see down to the Air Force Academy. And I love this picture because having been in the military and everything, it lets me understand that you all have a value to your history and your understanding of history. And I love to listen to you and your perspectives, because this world is a mess and you all are coming up in it, and your ideas on it need to be heard. So I wanted to share that picture because I had it already bought it up, and I bought my other pictures up. I love those pictures. But thank you all both for coming on and doing this episode. We went a little bit over, but that's fine. Don't do that all the time for this program. But I'm also pushing this idea in my mind of letting you both do your own individual program. So that was another reason why I wanted you all on, and we're going to work that out, see what we're going to do. But again, I just want to thank you both. Thank you for my mom. I saw my mom in there. Your grandmother said, great job. I saw my sister in there. Tina obviously was in there. Your mother made a point about validating information, which we always talk about here in this house in our conversations. So, all right, don't want to belabor it too much longer. Thank you both for coming on with your father. And giving me a chance to rest my voice a little bit. I still talked because we like to talk and make our points, but I wasn't as militant as Sean Anthony, and I wasn't trying to tell everybody you are destroying yourself. But it was a good point.
Yeah,
I mean,
great point.
people need to know that yeah, they're destroying themselves and as well as their future. They got to have that foot pressed down on them.
Hey, I'm
And
all for it. Because
I greatly appreciate it.
Our generation responds
Good point.
to bold.
Good point to counterpoint. Y'all work very well together to do that. Tweak your perspectives. All right, boys. I love you so much. I am very happy. To all of you all out there who this is maybe your first time watching this program, we are on every Thursday. Tonight we touched on a little bit of history, but we really wanted to get the perspectives of my son, and we really wanted to talk about just where we are. All right, but we're here every Thursday. Join us Thursdays. I'm on to about history. On Monday, my wife Tina is on. She's talking about adroit living, how to live a better life, how to live healthy, how to live how mental health is physical. And join her. She is on at 4 in the afternoon, Denver time, 5 in the afternoon, Chicago time. We'll be on. It is an open program, interactive. Please come on, ask your questions, get it, and watch those episodes. Subscribe on YouTube and on Facebook. Help us to grow this network. All right, getting back to my sons. All right, boys, we're going to get ready to get on out of here. I thank you for being on here. Let's tell the people. See you all next week.
Yeah. See y'all.
See y'all
Later.